Chris, can you hear me? Chris, are you there? Chris, I just heard you for a second there. Is the signal still broken? Chris, are you there? Chris, hello, can you hear? Chris, hello? Sorry guys, I'm trying to reach Chris. He tried to phone in. Chris, are you there? I faintly hear Chris. Hello? Chris,
Johnny,
are you Chris?
Johnny. That's right, I'm here, your man, you know.
Man, I can't believe it. You're actually back. You were gone for like 2 weeks or something. Where were you? What's going on, man?
I'm out here in the lab, the underground bunker, trying to survive this wildness. You know what I'm saying? Only ninjas make it. Only ninjas make it out here.
Okay, so I'm glad we finally got you back here. So what have you been up to? What's going on?
Right now, man, I'm doing big things. Look, I'm on the cover right now. I'm gonna let you know as soon as I get them new leads, yo. I gotta check, you know. So your man is like always on the hunt, you know, being mad dicey about it.
Okay, so maybe let's get some word in for last week's episode and record review. What did you think of the Tame Impala record?
Okay, I don't even know who this artist is. I gotta be honest. Is this Beck? Sounds like Beck to me.
No, it's not Beck, it's Tame Impala. What did you think of the Grimes album? I thought it was quite okay, wasn't it?
Nah, I do not agree with that. I do not agree with any of that. I'm just saying that album is really trash. I mean, that's the biggest piece of trash I've seen in a long time. That's such trash, man. You can't even put it in the regular waste bin. You gotta put it in the trash bin of history.
Well, that wasn't really my assessment, but whatever. I'm very, very happy that we finally have you back on the show, and I hope the signal works. I took quite some time installing some electronic devices, so hopefully we will have you back next week. And let me just start the show now, because we have something that is quite exciting for you, I think. So, after last week, we got another record review for you. It's still quarantine time, there's not a lot happening, so let's do another record review, and I think this is exciting. Hip-hop is in a period of Great Depression. After the year 2016 marked a high point for rap, seeing pretty much every key artist in black music genre spheres contribute standard releases, hip-hop for the very first time in its long history became overwhelmingly introspective and self-reflective. There's a variety of reasons for this. Be it the untimely passing of various key figures, many of them incredibly young and coming artists, the dissolution of artistic units regarded as revitalizers, or a variety of musicians confronting mental health and inner demons, both in their lyrics and aesthetics. For the very first time, it seems like rap turned from describing social realities and political disadvantages to confronting its cognitive dissonances. Much of that is possibly attributed to the fact that the socio-cultural shift from Obama to Trump brought with it questions regarding black and class identity, which ultimately made artists expand on their personal identities instead of playing with cliches and megalomania, masculinism and empowerment. What was once known as a subgenre with conscious hip-hop has now become the norm. So where does that leave a genre? Lately, the dichotomy we've been able to observe is that of two sides. The more psychedelic Californian sound that plays with nostalgia and vulnerabilities, and a dark, paranoid, disfigured aesthetic, which almost acts like the genre's subconscious, almost like a post-rap subgenre at this point. So what interests me personally is how hip-hop is going to develop from here. If we're going to see a sort of tectonic shift in the genre at the start of a new decade, similar to how Kid A and Is This It reinvigorated rock music. Not you, Chocolate Starfish. So today, let's talk about two early contenders for this: Rory Allen Philip Ferreira's Purple Moonlight Pages and Childish Gambino's 3:15:20. Both of the artists are newcomers to making music. Childish Gambino is the pseudonym of actor and comedian Donald Glover, whose last musical outing was the smash hit This Is America, an instantly canonized song and music video, which also quickly disappeared from the cultural radar with no further material following it. Meanwhile, Ferreira is known to most people under the pseudonym Milo, whose output in the last decade was also mostly celebrated by critics and audiences, but failed to cross over to the mainstream that embraced most of his contemporaries at this point. So let's head into these records. Coming away from the mega hits Redbone and This Is America, Glover always seemed particularly anxious to prove himself as a capable musician, trying to embrace as many genres as possible, oscillating between aggressive hip-hop and androgynous post-Prince influenced funk and R&B. Prior to This Is America, he's always seemed more interested in genre explorations, which makes it particularly ironic that his most revered work is a fairly traditional rap song. Many seem to interpret This Is America as a mission statement as to which direction the artist could head into next. So now, Donald Glover has pretty much surprised us all with this new release, which he dropped with little to no fanfare on his website, unfinished artwork included, deleted it again, and now released it again with even less artwork and cryptic numerals as song titles. And it's nothing like This Is America at all. 3:15:20 is a wild collage album, and I find it hard to summarize its qualities in the short time span I had since it's come out. The record seems intent to compartmentalize styles to individual songs, while as a whole piece, it feels incredibly experimental and at times even with no clear focus. So let's try to untangle things. As an album, it unites some key black musical releases of the past few years within its aesthetics. There's the minimalist approach to artwork and song titles, which resembles Kendrick's Untitled Unmastered. There's the obscure release strategy, similar to Frank Ocean's Endless. And there's also the fluid approach to sound and mixing with an almost mixtape type feel to it, which we've seen in the last Tyler and Solange records, jumping between genres and sounds, exploring different types of vocal techniques too. But this isn't merely Glover experimenting with posture, like he did before with his falsetto on Redbone. 3:15:20 is a statement record. I sometimes like to compare certain records with paintings, where a musician isn't so much interested in a linear experience, where the listener can pick out favorite songs, but where they try to achieve to give off an impression of a whole, where the memorability isn't as important as the impression an audience comes away with after hearing it as a whole piece. This is my impression here too. Glover really wants to underscore his artistic side and intentions. 3:15:20 is, in large parts, about the ability to create a 3:15:20 in the year 2020, a current sounding sonic concept album of sorts. And while I definitely think Glover managed to pull that off, he after all released this record the way he did, I want to criticize a few things, maybe. First of all, I think Glover shot his experimental load in the seeks that tie these songs together rather than exploring them within the songs themselves. Many of the ideas on the record are interesting. There's a space ambient feel to most of it in a really fascinating way, but I would have loved to see these ideas seep over into the actual songs rather than just put up in between them. Then there's a certain issue with the order of these songs. The dramatic arc of it doesn't really grip me. 24:19, the longest song here for example, is placed right in the middle of the album, so we can make a nice example of it. The track is 7 minutes long, of which a significant portion is actually the intro and outro sequences, which don't really add much to the song. Also, the song just feels more like a closer than a centerpiece. It's a nice soul ballad, but it kind of deflates the listening experience, especially as 32:22, which comes after it, starts with those chopped vocals and industrial bass lines. There's a dissonance between the atmospheres of some of these tracks that kind of take me out of listening to the album. The moods these songs create are just a bit too contradictory. And then there's the elephant in the room here. Guys, this album owes a lot to Prince. A lot. There's a lot of Sign of the Time referencing here. Quite a bit of Love Sexy and Gold too. The Love Sexy comparison is also notable in how the record is presented as one long track with the song titles indicating starting points of each song. There's ample comparisons one could make between individual tracks, such as 12:38 owing quite a bit to If I Was Your Girlfriend, 24:19 a lot to Shh, and algorithm a lot too now. But that's really besides the point. A lot of artists have obvious influences, and every generation should have an artist who sort of fits into the shoes of a previous icon. That's all okay. What strikes me about 3:15:20 is that the record doesn't give me a clear indication of who Donald Glover is. In comparison, I think Awaken My Love, with its wild funk rhythms and oftentimes really funny vocal deliveries, says more about Glover as a person and an artist, about his humor, about his ambitions, but also about his interpretation of blackness as a cultural signifier. 3:15:20 is a wonderful sonic work, but it's almost as if Glover isn't trusting his instincts, shying away of exploring his artistic chops in favor of fitting into other people's shoes. And the issue isn't that they are too large, but that I think he should be more confident to bring his personal idiosyncrasies to them. As esoteric the design of this record is, it's still aiming for the easy listen. Meanwhile, R.A.P Ferreira, oh my. To be honest, I hadn't heard any of Milo's records before the hype for Purple Moonlight Pages hit, so the first time I heard this record, I walked in completely blind. Yes, I know now that this was a mistake, that Who Told You to Think is a wonderful piece of hazy hypnagogia that may be a contender for my decade's end list even. I can't hear everything, okay? That's why I usually take time with my reviews, so forgive me with this. So, R.I.P Ferreira. What's notable is that Ferreira abandoned his previous contributors for Purple Moonlight Pages, instead collaborating with the Jefferson Park Boys. And from Greens onward, it's clear that this is a very significant shift. It's a turn from the more ambient-tinged previous work to full jazz rap, yet there's still many abstractions in the production sound of the album. Lots of playful reverb and echo to small vocal cameos, as well as those distinctly slowed down beats and synthesizer ambiences that made much of Milo's previous work so appealing. Dust Up is a beautiful example of this. Wonderful track, my god. There's a sober, solemn beauty to Purple Moonlight Pages that gives the record the feeling of a bookend of something. I've spoken in the beginning about how current era hip-hop is kind of within a depression, and songs like Cycles, Leaving Hell, and No Starving Artists sort of feel like a recapitulation of an emotional roadmap drawn out in the past few years. It reminds me of how music has the right to children kind of felt like a farewell to the British electronic scene's heyday of the past decade. Of course, Ferreira adds a poetic quality to this with his lyrics, which are constantly intelligent and observant. I don't like to go for hyperbole when reviewing albums so early after their release, but so what? I feel as if Purple Moonlight Pages is the introverted little sister of the more extroverted and confrontational To Pimp a Butterfly. At times, it even feels as if the two albums are in dialogue with each other, ruminating about the state of hip-hop as well as discussing the place of black artists in current-day America. Its greatest strength is its tasteful sensitivity and nocturnal atmosphere that will stay with me for a long time. It's a record that's hard for me to criticize because I'm spellbound by it. It's absolutely beautiful and captivating. It doesn't really revolutionize the genre of jazz rap so much as just provide a really perfect and in itself tied-up experience. So given that the record was just released a few days ago, I'm gonna give a little teaser here and say that I might just release a larger review come the end of this year when my year-end list is due. Up until then, I can't recommend it enough. What a wonderful record. Ladies and gentlemen, as you probably noticed, the quarantine is still going on, so there's not a lot of news items for us to talk about. And as you probably noticed, there also was no new episode last week. That was due to us just taking a little bit of break to adapt to this new situation and to schedule the coming weeks and the type of content we want to provide for you. So the next few weeks will probably see a few more record reviews, but I also want to do some individual episodes which are actually centered both on how the music industry is dealing with this quarantine, how artists are still getting along, and what I'm looking forward to most is actually to do a few episodes with listening recommendations of obscure releases that people might not have heard, which might brighten up their days indoors. So that's it for tonight. I first would like to thank Chris for phoning in. Thank you so much, Chris. I hope to see you back again next week.
Peace, yo.
And I also hope to see all of you again next week. We will be back in schedule. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a very nice night and stay wrong. Thank you for watching.